Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first Jackson Reaction Podcast. I'm your co-host, Gene Jackson. I'm joined now by my co-host, Rose Jackson.
Hello.
And I'm just going to go ahead and lead off at the very beginning of this and let this be known. This is not a wrestling podcast. I've had several of those in the past. I still have one that I'm going to do from time to time. However, you will hear a lot of wrestling talk on here because that's a lot of what we do. We go to wrestling, we watch wrestling, we talk about wrestling. It's a big part of our lives. So you will hear wrestling on here. You won't just hear only wrestling on here. We're going to talk about all our experiences, things we like, things we don't like, movies we see, TV shows, music, you name it. And we're going to talk about it. So hopefully everybody will enjoy that. Like I say, this is a podcast done strictly for entertainment and informational purposes. We're not here to act like we're the foremost experts on everything, even though we may end up coming off like that at times if we're being harsh about something. It's just our opinion, right?
That's right.
So it's not saying that we're right and you're wrong. We're not saying we could do it better. We're just telling you what our opinions of it are, and like I say, I've been told for many years, people say, hey, I love seeing y'all's pictures on Facebook and reading about y'all take all these trips and have all these experiences and meet all these people, and it's really cool. And I thought maybe people might enjoy hearing us talk about some of that, and hopefully they will. If you do, please share it and tell your friends about it and spread it around. And if you don't like it, you may not like this week's episode, whatever we're talking about, but you may like next week. So, give us a chance. We're working our way through it. This is the first time we've done anything like this, so it may take a little while to get our groove and figure out how we're going to have a format on this. But today, what we are going to talk about in episode number 1 is our Nashville experience. We just got back from Nashville, Tennessee at 2 o'clock this morning. We've been there since Thursday. We got to see a lot. We got to do a lot, and we had a lot of fun. Rosey is currently drinking coffee, trying to recover, as we haven't had a whole lot of sleep, but we've had enough. We figured while it was fresh on our mind, we'd go ahead and we'd talk about it. So, right off the bat, what would you say for you is the highlight of this whole trip that we've taken these past few days?
That would be Thursday night's visit to Zanies to see the Kevin Smith and the Jason Mewes.
That's right. Jay and Silent Bob Get Old is a podcast that Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes do. They've been doing it. I didn't realize they've been doing it this long. They've been doing it for 6 years now, as long as Jason Mewes has been sober, which is coming up on the 6-year anniversary of that in the next couple of months, they said. And they go around and they record these podcasts in various locations. And they did one at Zanies last night. They did one last year during the Wild West Comedy Festival, which we did attend. However, last year we only attended the Jay and Silent Bob Get Old podcast recording. We didn't stay for the second show, which is an evening with Kevin Smith, which is one of his Q&As. This year we opted to go to both. We bought tickets. Well, Rosey bought tickets for us for both shows. It was an anniversary present. And it was great. Loved it. However, and some might say this about me, but Kevin Smith's a very long-winded man. We got in the door at 5 o'clock, and we walked out there about 15 after 12. They have hard seats at Zanies, and between that and sitting at the wrestling show last night, we're a little sore, but nonetheless, it was quite fun.
Yeah, we're getting around like 90-year-olds today.
We are. It was
kind of broke down.
But the place was packed, and
that's the thing about comedy clubs, though, too, is the seating is very cramped. You're very squished into a small table that 4 people sit at. You barely have room to set your drinks, let alone any food that you get. And you're sitting in that one spot for, that would have been, 6 hours?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we were, it was the only miserable part.
7, actually.
7 actually. I mean, well, then you take the time we stood in line.
Yeah.
We started standing in line at 3 o'clock.
That's true.
But we did get front row 5 feet from Their shoes.
Oh, we were
Seating.
2 feet from. We weren't even 5. We were like 2 feet away. It was crazy. It was really fun though, and as always when we go to these types of things, half the fun is standing in line and seeing and sitting inside and seeing the people that these shows attract. Kevin Smith definitely attracts a unique, for lack of a better word, a unique crowd of people follow Kevin Smith.
Well, and necessarily it wasn't just the crowd that was at Zanies that we persecuted. It was the people in the Nashville area of that particular section of Nashville. It is very hipster in that area, and that is something we're not very accustomed to in this part of Alabama. Everybody dresses pretty normal here. You might have one or two people that are very stylish hipsters. You don't see many guys in very tight, sisterly, skinny jeans with man purses and hats that Taylor Swift ought to be wearing. So it's just, I hate to think that we come off as assholes by people watching, but we do sometimes have a bit of fun as we're in line because we people watch the people walking by us as well as the people in the crowd. So, and actually some of those things had got shared on Facebook, yeah, which I thought were pretty tremendous. We seen the ghost of Dave Mustaine. That was pretty awesome.
Yes. Slash the Lost Mulkey brother slash the Lost Allman brother. He got a few aliases thanks to our friends commenting on those Facebook posts, and again, I mean, we do that in fun. I mean, I know maybe it is an asshole thing to do, and people are like, oh, they're making fun of people. It's all in fun, but there was plenty to make fun of around there. I've never seen so many guys in skinny jeans in all my life. It was plumb embarrassing, and the goofy little hats, and some of them had vests on, and like I say, the man purse. It's a sight to behold. And then after talking to my friend Matt that lives in Nashville, he said the east side over there where Zanies is located has pretty much been that way for several years now. The hipsters have invaded and they've taken it over, and it was very, very evident. But like I say, it passes the time in the line. It really, this time standing in line, there weren't really that many people in line that annoyed me. Last year we stood in line ahead of the foremost expert on Kevin Smith's life and career, who sat and told everybody pretty much all the inner workings of Kevin Smith's business and all his personal life, as well as Ben Affleck's and what's her name? Affleck's wife, Jennifer Garner.
Yeah.
He seemed to be their neighbor apparently with all the inside information he had.
Yeah, we hate standing in line with people like that, and yes, we rip them mercilessly because I can't stand somebody that knows everything that goes to something. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, go as a fan, enjoy it. Maybe you do know a little more than most people, but don't go tell everybody like that. I mean, it's very arrogant to act that way.
And we may come off that way on time. As you listen to this podcast, however many years this goes on, or episodes or whatever, there's going to be times where you're going to be like, well, it takes a lot of nerve because y'all act like y'all know everything. But it's one thing to sit on a podcast where you guys have tuned in to listen to see what we have to say and us talk about things. I don't stand in line and tell all my knowledge of wrestling and try to sound like I know everything about everything. I mean, you just pretty much have normal conversation sitting there. And while the Kevin Smith crowd, like I say, last year was pretty annoying, 9 times out of 10 we're standing in line, especially at these fan fests. Oh my God, Smart Mark know-it-all fans are just the worst.
Yeah, and it seems like we always attract them to us.
Right.
For whatever reason, they always get behind us or in front of us, and it's just like, oh, please go away, go away.
And they want to impress someone with their knowledge of whatever it is you may be waiting to see that night. Because I mean, other comedy shows we've encountered that some as well, but I was braced for it. Like, I walked around the corner at Zanies as we were heading over there. I'm like, okay, be ready because you're going to get annoyed. You're going to want to just throw somebody out in traffic. And it wasn't that bad this time. It really wasn't.
It was
just
really, really nice. Yeah,
the hipster doofuses walking around that was just laughingly annoying. But, I mean, I didn't get, like, angry, annoyed. Just kind of something to laugh at and something to put on Facebook and share and like I say, guys, they got a lot of likes and good responses, and that's fun. So
Okay, well let's describe Zanies for people that haven't been to Zanies. Um, if you've never been to a comedy club, and you would like to go to a comedy club and feel as close to a comedian, more so than a big arena or Coliseum, Zanies is the place because they have good comics, very name brand comics such as Dave Attell, Jim Norton. We've seen Anthony Jeselnik,
Tom Green.
Tom Green. We've all sat within 2 feet of these people, and several we've met. And I mean, it's a very, very intimate type of setting. The place probably holds about 300, 350.
Yeah, I would say around that range.
And
there's not a bad seat in the place.
No, there's not a bad seat in the place. It has lots of seating. So I mean, and I would solely suggest anybody that wants to have a night out, get you some tickets, go see somebody there. Maybe get a couple of people to go with you, so you can fill up a table with people you know. It's not exactly bad that you have to sit with people you don't know, but sometimes, and the majority of the time when we sit with people, we always get the really quiet people that don't talk to you. And it's like, I'll try to, hey, where y'all from?
Yeah.
So you've been here before? And they just kind of look at you like you're stupid. So, if you have other people that can go with you, that's the key ticket to having a really great time because you all can enjoy the experience. Tickets are not that expensive. For Kevin Smith, for the one show, I paid $87 tax and all for 2 tickets. Which some people would say, oh my God, that is expensive. But you're talking Kevin Smith, the maker of Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. You're not going to see this guy walking down the street somewhere, and you're not going to see him in Nashville, Tennessee, of all places.
And if you go to a Wizard World con or something like that to sit at one of his Q&As as close as we sat at this Q&A,
you're going to pay a lot more money.
Hundreds of dollars.
You're going to pay a lot more money. And, for both shows, I think I paid a total of $160 for both, for 2 tickets to each. But normal comics, it's around the range of about $35 a ticket, $25 a ticket. Sometimes they run specials during the week if you want to go on a Thursday night or Wednesday night. They have like buy one get ones, or the tickets are like $10, which is really good. I mean, if we lived in Nashville, we'd go all the time because we love that place. And granted, we have a comedy club in Birmingham, and it's nice as well, but you don't feel the personal experience that you feel at Zanies.
Yeah, it's more of a theater experience somewhat at Stardome. I mean, it's big. You probably put 2 Zanies inside the Stardome in Birmingham. But if you get there early, I mean, you can sit as close as you want. If you're at the front of the line, I mean, you literally, when you sit at the edge of that stage, like I say, you're a foot to 2 feet away from the person. I mean, it felt like, especially after being there 7 hours, it felt like we hung out with Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes Thursday night. You know what I mean? It felt very up close and personal, and Kevin Smith's just one of the nicest people, the most down to earth people you can never imagine. He's definitely not arrogant to do the things he's done. He's not arrogant at all. He's not cocky.
And Jason Mewes isn't either.
Oh,
I mean, they're both 2 super nice guys that if you just, you just feel like you just met them off the street like just normal dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't recommend Zanies enough. If you're a fan of comedy, if you're within driving distance of Nashville, and pretty much anybody is if you own a car, you're within driving distance. It may be far,
and it's not downtown Nashville. It's kind of on the outskirts. I mean, you're probably a good 15 minutes from downtown.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah, and it's really easy to get to.
You shoot down to Wedgwood Avenue. You take an exit. You exit off the right, turn back to the left, make another turn to the left.
It's on 8th Street.
It's 1.5 miles from the interstate. It's very easy to get to. But again, I think the key to that is get there a little early because parking gets a little hectic and tight there towards time for the show to start, and then the seating's a little. You got to wedge in with people at that point. If you get there right before the show starts, everybody's packed in, and like I said, they use every inch of that place. I mean, once you get in there, you're in there, you're packed in. But like I said, it's all part of that intimate experience, and it's. I don't know. It was very cool. Like getting to see. We've seen some of our favorite comedians. Dave Attell was awesome, just super funny, and Anthony Jeselnik, was great. And then you're right there up close. You're getting ripped on. We were there when Tom Green was there. I mean, we were sitting at the front, and we were a part of one of his bits. I mean, and he used us for that. And that was really cool because I've been a fan of Tom Green since high school when he first come out, back in the day. And
the cheese is on my bum. The cheese is on my bum. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got to meet him and get a picture with him. He signed our DVDs and stuff, and was really nice. And I haven't come across anybody there that's been a jerk. Jim Norton was super cool. He stayed and took pictures with everybody in the building and signed stuff. And then
yeah, I got spit on by Jim Norton.
Yeah, she got spit on by Jim
so
Norton,
close.
which I don't know. Listen to some of the stories Jim Norton tells.
I might need to get checked. May need to get checked.
That might be a danger, but no, he was really funny and really nice to meet afterwards. And the staff there is all very nice. And I can't recommend it enough. If you're in Nashville or making a trip to Nashville and you like comedy at all, you should definitely make a point to go down to Zanies and catch a show. And they usually have a late show, an early show, and a late show most days of the week. I think maybe Monday and Tuesday are probably the only nights they're not open. But every year, like in May, they have this Wild West Comedy Festival, and the way it sounds, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes will be coming every year as a part of that, and they bring in all kinds of big name comics to be all over town. I think Chris Tucker was at the arena last night, and Jeff Foxworthy was around, and Joe Rogan, and different ones. So they pretty much got somebody for everybody for that. So I highly recommend it because we're huge fans of comedy. I mean, we love wrestling, but we also love comedy and other things, and that's become a regular place on our places to go every year now. So we usually make 2 or 3 or more trips to Zanies to go see different people.
I think last year was our comedy trifecta because I had tickets to like 5 different shows in like 3 or 4 different month spans, and it was like we were turning around going to Nashville like every other month for comedy shows. I do suggest though, if you do plan on going to a bigger comedy act such as the Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes, you buy your tickets. Like I bought our tickets in February, and the week after I bought the Q&A tickets, because I didn't buy them at the same time because they didn't announce that he was going to do the Q&A till like a week or 2 later, they were sold out. So you have to kind of buy your tickets months in advance and know that, okay, this is something I'm going to do, because I mean we had this planned out for since
because last
February.
year there was only one night. It was a early show and a late show on just I think it was Wednesday night.
Yeah, it was Wednesday night.
And this year they expanded it to Wednesday and Thursday for a total of 4 shows, and they still all sold out.
Yeah.
Within a week. Or 2.
Yeah, there wasn't another person when I looked around when he come on stage that they could have got in there. They had it at full maximum capacity both nights. I'm sure both nights.
And you've seen some people get really bummed out. There was a guy who came up who had Jay and Silent Bob tattooed on his calves. He had mall rats tattooed on his legs. He had all these Jay and Silent Bob tattoos, and he went up to the ticket window 30 minutes before the doors were going to open as if he was just going to walk up and buy a ticket. And of course then you heard him say, "Oh, we're sold out," and he walked away just
like
completely bummed out. I was like, really?
Which I would too if I was that big of a fan. But
I would too, but I would have made plans.
Yeah, but knowing the type of person in the fan base that Kevin Smith brings with him, I mean, that there's going to be people that not only have listened to the podcast that he brings in, it's people that love his movies that are going to come in because they're interested. And the Q&A was really interesting. I mean, I now want to see Tusk because I've heard so much about it.
Yeah.
It sounds like the cheesiest pile of shit that you could ever make, but I still want. I'm intrigued. I have to see it. So if somebody has a copy they would like to let me borrow, that would be great. If not, I guess I'm gonna have to buy it. I hate to buy one because I don't feel like I'll watch it again after I watch it once. But I have to see it. I mean, we just recently watched Red State, and I was kind of I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was good. It was a very different story. Pretty much he told us that you don't accept gangbangs off Craigslist, because that will get you sucked into a cult that will kill you.
Valuable lesson.
Yeah, and that's what I took away from that. But it like I said, it was a pretty good movie for what it was. It wasn't near as what the reviews I had read said it was a lot more horror based,
Yeah.
and I didn't really get that. I mean, yeah, it was a little gratuitous in some parts, but not as gruesome as most movies I watch. So
yeah, it's hard to qualify it as a horror movie.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't qualify it as a horror. Maybe a hardcore drama, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, and it was very, very far off from what you've come accustomed to from Kevin Smith. But from what I can gather of Tusk and this Yoga Hosers that's coming out, they're even further out into the.
And he did discuss some of his movie that he will be doing soon called Moose Jaws.
Yeah, which will be a third installment of the same universe that Tusk and this Yoga Hosers is taking place in. Moose Jaws will be a part of it. But it will also introduce Jay and Silent Bob into that series, which I think will be very entertaining.
Yeah.
And then to explain that for those that don't know, Moose Jaws is exactly what the name implies. It's almost a parody of the movie Jaws, but it's a moose that's killing
in the wilderness of
the Great
Canada,
White North in Canada.
And it's people are coming up missing, and there's a killer moose, much like Jaws,
who was now being hunted by Jay and Silent Bob. So,
and I was very interested to see that. And I did not know this previous, but Johnny Depp is in all three of these movies.
Yeah.
Which I find mind-blowing. Johnny Depp being an actor that's been in Nightmare on Elm Street, 21 Jump Street, all the just tons of movies Johnny Depp's been in, and he is in a Kevin Smith movie about Tusk, which is a dude that gets bit by another dude that turns him into a cheesy walrus or something, and then this Yoga Hosers, whatever, that he is some sort of I guess he's the same. He's the detective guy in all three of these things, and it's just like
a French detective.
A French detective.
He loves doing voices and accents, but I mean the real insight in all that is the way Johnny Depp ended up doing a series of Kevin Smith movies, seemingly for free. The way Kevin Smith talked, his daughter has grown up friends with Kevin Smith's daughter, and they've known each other since grade school, I guess, and stayed at each other's houses, and Johnny Depp has taken them on trips and things like that, which is how Kevin Smith says he got Johnny Depp's phone number, which led to and then I'm sure he'll be putting out a Q&A DVD that will explain all that. So in all the things we heard throughout the podcast and in the Q&A, what did you find to be the most interesting thing that you didn't know previous? Or was that it, maybe, that Johnny Depp's friends with him and did a movie for him for free, no less?
Well, I mean, pretty much just his array of people, that his circle of director friends and actor friends and stuff. It's just, Kevin Smith is not a guy, when you see Clerks and you see his Q&As and things, you think, hey, this is a dude that's friends with people like Quentin Tarantino and Johnny Depp, where he can just text him and be like, "Sup guys, I'm doing a movie, you want to be in it?" And then them go, "Yeah, that's awesome." It's just, I don't know, that's just, I guess, but that's Hollywood. Everybody knows everybody, and they intermingle because of different things. But it's just, I don't know, hearing about stories like that's interesting to me, because we're Alabama people. We don't know nothing about showbiz. We just see it on TV. So
yeah. And I don't know, I guess the one thing I heard him say that kind of surprised me, I don't know if it's disheartening, but kind of this odd, is, for so many years and years, certain actors are intertwined with Kevin Smith forever. Obviously the guys who played Dante and Randall, and so many people have had reoccurring parts. I can only think of him as Earl right now. I usually know his real name, but the guy who played Earl in My Name is Earl has been, turned up in all his movies. And so, and Rosie's gonna look that up right now.
I gotta Google it because it loses me. It's Jason
Lee.
Jason Lee. Yeah, there you go.
And so you just assume that Kevin Smith is close friends with Jason Lee, and they talk on a regular basis. And another actor that you consider that is Ben Affleck, despite what a big star he's became. You know, he's synonymous with Kevin Smith movies, and he pops up in everything, at least in a small part, if nothing else.
Yeah, and Matt Damon too.
Yeah, and so to hear him say that. He's had little to no interaction with Ben Affleck in the last several years, other than a couple of emails. I'm like, well, that's crazy. You know, thought, especially with him playing Batman now, I would have thought he would have consulted with Kevin Smith about that at length, because you know Kevin Smith does a whole podcast about Batman. He's Mr. Comic Book, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. I guess you just people do go their separate ways and do different things, but I don't know. That's kind of sad because I don't think he would have.
Yeah.
The career he has had without Kevin Smith to some degree.
I'm not saying that because he had the movie Phantoms and he's the bomb in that, and so.
But the only reason I know Phantoms exists is because Jay said that in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
See, me and you though, I've watched a lot of movies. I watched a ton of movies before me and you got together, and it's like I've seen a lot of movies that he was in before.
Yeah.
That.
And I know they wrote Good Will Hunting and they won Oscars and all that
exactly.
kind of stuff.
I mean, he was known for a certain acting type of role, in those movies, but then to see him in something like Dogma or, Chasing Amy, the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, some of those, or even, Clerks or Mallrats it was just a whole different way of his acting. It brought out a whole different a comedic side to him, and it made him, I guess, relevant to people that don't really follow those movies, such as Good Will Hunting and some of the more intelligent, smart movies. Yeah. So in a way, it kind of helped him. I would think it helped his career to make him a little more relevant to people, and I mean, I would be thankful for somebody doing that for me. But
I mean, I guess that's not to say that he's not, but. It'll be interesting to see if he takes whatever small part that he wants to cast him in the sequel to Mallrats, which he did confirm is still underway and should be coming out next year sometime. So that was good to hear that he's not just going to completely stick to making all these weird ass movies that he's doing now.
And I was kind of excited to hear him say Clerks 3.
Yeah, he did say that still.
I was like, I don't know how that's going to work, but I can only hope, and he better have Dante and Randall in it. Because,
Jesus, I mean...
Oh my God, you got to have Dante and Randall in a Clerks.
You can't have a Clerks movie without Dante and Randall. That would just be...
Exactly.
Completely unacceptable. And I even like the addition of Elias, and I'm sorry, I was a fan of Clerks 2. I know there's a lot of people that love the original Clerks that hated on Clerks 2.
Well,
and I don't get it because I thought it was very funny, and I enjoyed it, and I liked some of the new characters that was introduced into it.
I don't know. I found it interesting though when somebody had asked Kevin Smith about the song that was wrote in Clerks 1, the drinking beers, smoking weed, smoking,
Yeah.
And whatever, it's like they asked him, well, did you come up with that? Who wrote that? And he's like, he come up with it, or Jason Mewes come up with it, but he had added in snorting coke.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that. He said that if he could go back and change it, he would have just done it as drinking beer, smoking weed, and that's it. But I mean, I'm thinking as everybody in Zanies is singing this along with him, including me, I don't think it would be the same to go back and take it out, because the way Clerks 1, although I'm sure there's things that he didn't like, and he said that there's some of his movies that if he could go back and take out things that he would have. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't change a thing about it. Clerks is one of my favorite top movies. I love Clerks. Oh, yeah. I can pop in Clerks any day of the week if I'm having a bad day, and that just, I love it. It's just always been that way to me. If not for that, for the little mini songs that they play in between the things.
What I found fascinating about that is, the guy in the crowd, one of the questions in the Q&A was who wrote the quote unquote fuck song, which opens up Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. But he said, well, no one actually wrote it. They were standing outside about to walk in for that scene at the end of Clerks 1, and he tells Jason Mewes, sing one of your little goofy songs you sing. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, when you walk around singing, he's just sing something. So he just makes that up off the cuff, makes up that song, and then like you said, he includes that line about coke. And he asked him, he's like, why would you say doing coke? You don't fucking do coke. You're a stoner, you know. And he's like, I don't know. I just put it in there. And, you know, I just think it's funny that a song that a whole building of 300 people are in there singing along with him, which you could tell genuinely amused him, and you know, he loved that. That's just something Jason Mewes just popped off out of the blue, you know, and now it's something that,
it's,
you know, people know and remember.
It's culture, you know, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just, it's part of, I don't know, it's just part of our
And he said,
stuff.
you know, he said he had like 2 regrets for Clerks, the things he wish he don't want to go back and redo it, but if he had a chance to do it again the first time, he would have made him take out the thing about doing coke, and I don't remember what the second thing was, but they both had to do with Jason Mewes, things that he said that was not scripted, that he just ad-libbed. But I think that, you know, Jay's a character that nobody really takes nothing he says that serious anyway, so it's not like anybody went home like, oh god, Jay's a cokehead, you know. It's just some goofy shit he said. And I think Clerks is perfect as it is. I wouldn't take anything out, but I did find it funny, and I guess it kind of shows what keeps Kevin Smith level-headed, because he was like, he doesn't think Clerks is that great of an original movie, that he looks at it as a knockoff of Slackers, and that it was just his version of that. But I don't think many other people would agree with that. You know, I mean, everything about it, the being shot in black and white, and the day and time that they did, even though they say it was just a cost-cutting measure, it wasn't like a statement. It was just, it was cheaper to buy black and white film. But everything about that movie, I think, was original, and it kind of changed the way people made movies at the time. Because I'd never seen anything like it, you know, especially from a comedy. You know, the way it was broke up into the little segments, and
I don't know. It's just it's one of those movies. It's like, I don't know. It's like I said that night when we came back and we were discussing it. It's like, out of all Kevin Smith's movies, the only movie that he's done so far that's different is, well, Chasing Amy's nothing like the others. That is a very original Kevin Smith, you know, movie. I mean, if you look at it like, in his eyes, he thinks, okay, well, I just pretty much ripped off Slacker for Clerks. You know, what was the other one he said he ripped off?
Well, he said Mallrats was basically an 80s John Hughes movie.
Hughes.
And you can see the influence, but
you can see the influence, but I don't think it's a knockoff, because it in its own is different because of the characters and stuff. So I don't know. To me, Kevin Smith's one of the great directors. I mean, granted, now the stuff he does now is just to show people, hey, you think that I'm farting dick jokes, so this is what you're gonna get, you know. Or, you know, for the people that, you know, only want him to make things such as Clerks and Mallrats, and they don't want to see anything like the Red State or the Chasing Amy's or Dogma even, or any of the other outside realms that he's done. You know, he's just like, well, screw you. You're gonna get a shitty, you know, D-rated piece of shit. Enjoy it.
I also thought it was very funny that he talked about the fact when he directed Cop Out that him and Bruce Willis just fucking hate each other. Like,
oh yeah, his impersonation of Bruce Willis was awesome. That was great.
So those stories were interesting and fun as well.
Yeah.
Before we move away from Zanies, though, I feel the responsibility to add one thing, though. If you do go to Zanies, have some money with you, because each person does have a 2
item minimum,
yes. And the food's not cheap, the drinks aren't cheap.
Well,
but, you know,
it is to some degree. They have items that are cheap and they have items that are not cheap. I mean, you could spend the onset of $60 in one show just on food and drinks, and the food is very good. I'd say it is very good food. But it's not, it's not cheap. You want to make sure you take a little money so you've got your 2+ covered, and you've got, you know, in case because a lot of the comics will bring their stuff, like their DVDs, t-shirts, and they'll sign stuff, books, that they'll have for sale after the show, and you can purchase those things from them too. So, you know, it's it's not a bad experience. It's not, like I said, one I'd go do every night, but in certain times it's great.
Yeah, I didn't say it to dissuade anybody from going. I just didn't want to get an email or a tweet like, go, hey, thanks, asshole. You didn't tell us we need to bring, money for this 2-item minimum. But that's a bar. At the end of the day, they're a bar / restaurant that has comedy as ways to get people in. But it's a money making thing, and that's part of it. But the food is really good there, and we, like I say, we went to 2 shows, and we probably spent $100 total on drinks and food.
Yeah, at least
because of it. But we enjoyed ourselves, and I think we've gotten that across. So moving on with our Nashville trip, we got us a hotel because we were gonna get there Thursday and was gonna stay till we was gonna head back last night, which we did. So Rosey got online and did some investigating, found us a hotel, and it was pretty nice. The only thing we realized once we got there, it was right next to a train exchange station, and there was this loud whine that pretty much went on almost the entire time we were there. And I didn't originally see it as identifiable, but the next morning, Rosey seemed to figure out what she thought it was, which stuck in my head the rest of the time. So tell everybody what we were listening to as we were at the hotel, laying in bed, trying to sleep, trying to watch TV, whatever.
Yeah, I told Gene I think we ought to be ready to be picked for the Hunger Games because it sounds like the Mockingjay whistle.
And it did. I am completely guilty, and this will come out on this podcast over the episodes, I'm sure. I've been guilty of ruining so many songs for Rosey, where I'll change the lyrics or someone in the past. The only example that jumps to mind right now, a guy I used to work with. Every time the song "Wagon Wheel" used to come on, he would sing "Rape Your Mama with a Wagon Wheel," and so Rosey, I tell that to Rosey, and she's never been able to hear. Oh, I know. Here's another good example too. The old LL Cool J song "Hey Lover." I changed that to "Gay Lover," and she's never been able to hear that the same as well.
And try the Goo Goo Dolls. I want to know your name.
I won't tell them your name.
I won't tell them my name. It's I won't tell them you're gay.
Yeah.
So that pops in my head every time that comes on. I want to tell you I thank you for that so much.
Yeah. So I've done that to quite a few songs. So it's one of those things like once you hear it, you can't unhear it. So that was the same for me. So we heard the Mockingjay whistle for 2.5 days while we were there. It would stop, but it's usually when we were gone to go eat or something, you might go, hey, it's stopped, it's not doing it, and then 2 minutes later it's back just incessantly. But it was a pretty nice hotel. It was a La Quinta, I'll say it.
I don't know, if you looked at it, some people would see it as a little questionable because it did kind of look a little run down in some parts. But, I mean, most hotels in Nashville, it's like unless you want to pay $200 a night to stay somewhere downtown, the outskirts are going to run you about $99 a night, $97 a night if you're lucky. And it's like for the price, it was a decent place to stay. It didn't have bed bugs. It was very clean. We didn't get bothered. It just for the money and for what we needed it for, it was fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying this from a standpoint of, okay, as a guy whose company pays to put him in hotels pretty frequently, it wasn't the nicest I've stayed in because they put me in pretty nice places most of the time. But as a guy who spent many a night at the Southern Motel with Neil Taylor in Corinth, where there was bed bugs and free porn on the TV. It wasn't scrambled. You didn't have to pay for it. It was just there. You're flipping through, and there's Jay Leno, David Letterman, porn.
Did you have one of those beds you put quarters in?
No, I didn't have that, unfortunately.
Damn.
That would have felt nice after a hard night of wrestling Danny Morris and Mega Man Rodney Grimes to go back and put a quarter in the bed and be shaken to sleep afterwards. But me and Neil Taylor in the days of Southern Destruction stayed in some pretty questionable places for about $25, $30 a night that made the place we stayed in last night look like the Grand Hotel.
Which I've stayed in, so it's
yeah. So you know what's up with that. But yeah, it wasn't a bad place at all for what we needed it for and for how long we were going to stay there for the price. It was pretty nice, like I say, other than the Mockingjay whistle going nonstop. But we did have a Cracker Barrel, like literally in the parking lot, that we went and ate breakfast at, and then returned and ate dinner at, because we didn't want to have to drive because the weather was bad. But that's not worth going into. But the Cracker Barrel meals were pretty good.
Yeah, the Cracker Barrel in the parking lot was
got
very
you
good.
a nice necklace.
Yes,
from the Cracker
I'm a
Barrel
procurer
country
of
store.
goodies from the Cracker Barrel. I can't go into a Cracker Barrel and not spend another $40 buying stuff. So
that's why I have to budget that. Like if we're going to eat and we're budgeting a meal, and it's like, well, we can go here to Applebee's, we'll spend $30, or we can go to Cracker Barrel, which the meal will be $20, but then when you get the necklace or the purse or the whatever, it's going to be $50. So, we'll go to Applebee's instead. But we did pretty good in there. And what else did we do leading into Friday? We really didn't do nothing. Friday was nice. Like we went and ate at Cracker Barrel a couple of times, and we went and had a nice lunch at Old Chicago. I don't know if anybody's ever ate at Old Chicago. It's a place we discovered when we were living in Kentucky. They had one in Evansville, Indiana, and we ate there several times. And it's a nice place. They got Chicago style pizza, obviously, and all sorts of things. The menu, every time we go, there's more and more stuff on the menu. But we went there and got us a deep dish pizza and some sausage rolls, and that was really good. And then we went back to the hotel and pretty much slept in between, fading in and out between Seinfeld episodes on TBS, and watched TV and rested for the first time in quite a while, because we normally run around. So that was nice. And then Saturday morning we got up and we went and had breakfast at the IHOP, and there was a lot of people at the IHOP and like 2 servers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but the Bananas Foster's brioche, off the hook. Yeah, it was some good stuff. And
my strawberry and cream cheese crepes were very nice. So then we were looking for something to do, and we decided to go check out Opry Mills. We'd never been there. Last time I was there, it was Opryland. I was riding roller coasters. I was riding bumper cars. I was on the log ride. It's a great time. And now we come back, and it is a colossal mall and a colossal clusterfuck.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So many people. God.
If you go, have patience, because parking's limited. You have to drive around and park like 6 miles from it and then walk. It is so huge. There's literally every kind of store in that thing that you would want. Fossil, Coach, Michael Kors.
Things I didn't even know existed. There was a Puma store.
Puma.
Like, who knew the Puma was even still a thing?
Yeah, Tommy Hilfiger, which I thought nobody wears Tommy Hilfiger anymore. Well, they don't in these parts because we don't have a Tommy Hilfiger store here anymore. But apparently there's people, that do. Tommy Bahama, just like, and then several different restaurants. Now, I would say go there for the restaurants, because there's the Rainforest Cafe, there's the aquarium, which are very unique experiences, but very expensive.
Dave & Buster's is
Dave
connected.
Buster's,
Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, and we were all gung ho to go to Dave & Buster's, but then I did not realize that Dave & Buster's, they let kids in there. I would assume.
I thought the whole gimmick was it was Chuck E. Cheese without the shitty kids.
Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese without the shitty kids. So and that's the whole thing that had me sold. But then when I went on and I downloaded the D&B app and got my $10 credit and all that stuff, I seen the reviews people had posted. And they were talking about how their kids went and had such a great time, and that, their kids. Every review had somebody bringing kids. And I'm like, okay, well, all the commercials they shows these adults getting like pissed drunk. Where are the kids? Okay, and I can only imagine, and I'm not saying I hate kids. We're not saying we dislike children. Children are not for me and Jean. We do not do kids well. I'm not very kid friendly. I am, but I'm not. I'm not in the circumstances where I'm wanting to drink an alcoholic beverage and play skee ball. So I just seen that would be a tremendous headache to me, to have to deal with kids running around and me trying to relax and enjoy a video game, have some fun, and then there's whiny kids everywhere. So
yeah, I don't like them. I don't like kids. I don't want to see harm come to them. It is very upsetting to me when I hear something bad happen to a kid. But I don't like them. I don't enjoy being around them. I don't find them amusing or funny or cute or any of that crap. But that's just me. But yeah, I don't want to go somewhere where there's going to be a bunch of them running around and then the parents are drunk and letting them be even worse than normally would be. So yeah, that pretty much shut that down for me. So we chose to do something else. But anyway, it was a pretty nice place, and Rosey found her a Darth Vader keychain at the Lego store. It was a Lego Darth Vader. Pretty neat. Found a Cheshire Cat at the Disney store.
Yes, I'm a child.
I found a pretty, well, me too, because I found a pretty sweet 1, 2, 3 Kid action figure at the KB Express. So got a pretty good haul from the mall. We went and ate lunch at TGI Fridays, which we hadn't had much of since we moved back from Kentucky. We used to eat at the one in Owensboro some, but we got us. I got Jack Daniel's sliders, and she got her a Jack Daniel's chicken, and we had some sweet appetizers, and we hit the road and killed time to till we had to go to the wrestling match at the fairgrounds. Now, let me preface this by saying, and you're going to hear a lot of these stories on the podcast because we've been to a lot of them. We haven't really had an opportunity to tell the stories, but you know, I'm involved in wrestling. Sometimes I manage, sometimes I wrestle, sometimes I do commentary, whatnot. But first and foremost, more than anything, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not embarrassed to say that I'm a fan of wrestling and that I still like to go to shows as a fan. So many of these guys, once they get involved, then it's beneath them to go to a show, or they have to act like they don't like it, or they're not, you know, excited about meeting one of their heroes and that kind of shit, and that just annoys me. So despite being involved here and there other places, I still like to go to shows and like meeting wrestlers. And we figured out the other day, we've met like 180 wrestlers, give or take. And we kind of have a list now of people who are like priority people we want to meet. And one of the people on that list was Kevin Nash. We were supposed to meet Kevin Nash at WrestleCade in North Carolina last November/December. And at the last minute he had shingles and had to cancel, and he wasn't able to be there, and we were bummed out because we had met Scott Hall in October in Rome. So we're like, we're going to meet the Outsiders back-to-back months, you know, which Outsiders, probably top 2 favorite tag teams of mine of all time. You know, love the Outsiders and the NWO and back in the day in WCW. So we were super psyched about that. Then it didn't work out. And so we've been trying to figure out, well, where are we going to meet Kevin Nash at? And we'd already, like I said, Rosey bought these tickets back in February, so we already had plans to be in Nashville to see Kevin Smith. And it pops up on Facebook that Kevin Nash is going to be at a show in Nashville. And lo and behold, it's 2 days after we're going to see Kevin Smith. So we had to put in a request for off days from work and everything. And so we went to Freedom Pro Wrestling, which I had never heard of, but apparently they're based out of like Wisconsin. But they did have a track record of having shows and guys actually showing up who were booked on the shows. And so we went, and it wasn't a bad show. And I mean, we're going to talk about wrestling on here, and I'm going to try not to be the asshole that a lot of people are on the internet just ripping shows. But at the same time, we're going to be honest. We're not going to say stuff was great when it wasn't. But it was a good show. It had a lot of great points. The second match was not one of those great points. The second match
cut altogether.
Shouldn't have even took place.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the show portion of that in just a minute. So we get there, and the first knock I would have of the show is a little unorganized, because we walk up and there's a line over here, and there's a few people over, and it wasn't even like the lines were close together. Like, there was one line up against the building, and then there was another line like out towards the parking lot, and then a separate line out towards the parking lot, and there was a little table out there where they were selling tickets. And of course, we already had ours pre-bought. Rosey had them on her phone, and there was one chick standing there. And as we're walking up, Rosey goes over and makes conversation with her, and she says, "Oh, I got the VIP tickets." And so we thought that was the line, so we get in line behind her, Well, come to find out, this big, huge line that went down the wall of the building was the VIP line. They were just letting her in early because they had told her wrong or something like that. Well, anyway, the guy that's running the door looks over at us and said, "Are y'all with her?" And we're like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh yeah, they're with me." So don't know her name. I never did catch her name, but
no.
If she's listening, thank you, because that helped us out. But then we returned the favor and let her cut the Kevin Nash line with us. But anyway, the doors were supposed to open at 6:15. They opened at 6:45. Well, that's not special. Every wrestling show in the world typically starts late.
But as our VIPs, we were supposed to get in at 5:15.
Yeah, at 5:15, which we did get in at 5:30
something.
No, it's probably about 5:40.
5:40.
So we did get in earlier than that, but anyway, we got in and we got in line. We went right in this Kevin Nash line, and I've heard different things about him. I've heard some people say he's really cool. Some people say he's kind of grumpy and different. But everybody in front of us that we seen, he was talking to him. He was cutting up, and this one guy had on a bootleg Diesel shirt, and he got his cell phone out and took a picture of it to put on his Twitter, and seemed genuinely amused by it. And then when we were taking our picture with him and getting our action figure signed, because I got corrected, I called it a doll, and Eric Young corrected me. Was getting things signed. I told him, I said, I've been a fan of yours ever since I saw you as Vinny Vegas in Columbus, Mississippi, wrestling Van Hammer. And he said, "That's like a rodeo arena, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a dirt floor." And he remembered the show. Like, he remembered, details of it and where the hotel they stayed in and all that. So that was really cool that he didn't just blow me off and like, "Yeah, I've been a lot of places." He actually remembered the show and kind of remembered what went on. And I had a similar experience when we met Scott Hall. He talked about the same place, Columbus, but it was a Continental show, and he remembered that, and he stood around and talked. So our experience meeting Kevin Nash was really positive. I enjoyed it. I think you did too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So super nice guy. We got a really great picture with him. We got to meet Eric Young, which we'd met him once before, but we took a picture with him, spoke with him for a minute, and he's a really nice guy. Rosey got a picture with Star Spud and had some interaction with him.
Yeah.
She was fanning herself because it was hot in the building, and what did he say to you?
He said, "I know, love, I'm hot. I know you can't stand it because I'm so hot over here." And I said, "Oh, no."
And then she berated him for not having his bow tie anymore.
Yeah, which he says he doesn't wear the bow tie anymore, but I don't know, because fuck me, I don't watch TNA.
Yeah.
Y'all might be like, "Oh my God, how can you be wrestling fans and not watch TNA?" But I'm sorry, I tried. And I'm sure there's some people that think that's the greatest thing alive, and hey, wrestling's subjective, each his own. I just don't like it. I've tried. I can't sit through it.
Well,
so.
I've said this time and time again. I don't like TNA because I don't like their booking or their writing or whatever you want to call it. There's some really good wrestlers in TNA. And last night was proof, because honestly, and I said this to Rosey as we were sitting there, and then I read some reviews on Trent Van Drees's Mid-Southern Wrestling Board, and a couple of guys said the same thing. Essentially, this was a TNA house show from 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the guys on the show had been in TNA. Some still are, some are in and out. But a lot of those guys are really, really talented guys. It's just the storylines are so hard to watch. I mean, when you can make the American Wolves boring,
yeah,
and unwatchable.
And we were like the hugest American Wolves fans.
Yeah.
For ROH, and it's like soon, we were excited when they went to TNA.
We didn't watch TNA for like a couple of years, and we made it a point to start back watching when they brought them in. And I think we made it through maybe 3 weeks, and that was fast forwarding into the Wolves match.
Yeah, it was.
And we then we didn't bother watching their stuff anymore. But
well, case in point, I back in the day watched TNA more than I watched WWE when TNA first came out, and they had the 6-sided ring and the X Division and all that stuff. I thought that was the most new and different concept of wrestling I had seen at that time. Then when they started getting away from that, they went to a regular ring. They started bringing in the old WWF guys, and started just being just total storyline, no wrestling. It was like maybe just a little wrestling with a 45 minutes of storyline. I quit watching it.
Yeah, well, it was like WWE done very badly.
Yeah,
like, it was just
it was like
a very poor
bad
knockoff.
WCW is what it was.
Yeah,
and they even
not the good years, like
not
the
good, the bad.
2000 and 2001,
Yeah,
99 and 2000 years of WCW. But it it had its high spots. No pun intended, because high spots was there. But the opening match, they promised there was going to be. They had their names booked, but they promised there were going to be some surprises. Well, the first two surprises. Kevin Nash comes out. He's playing the GM because they had to have him do something because he wasn't wrestling. And so Robbie E from TNA comes out, which I admit I'm sorry, I'm not a Robbie E fan. I'm not against him. He's Robbie E, fine, whatever. And then they had this guy, and I don't get this. I did some reading on it this morning. Apparently this guy's a thing up north. A guy they call Lamarca, who's a guy dressed like Laparca wearing a CM Punk t-shirt, who comes out to Cult of Personality and does all of CM Punk's mannerisms, but then he gets on the microphone and marks out for whoever's in the ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he comes out, and of course, it got a good, when they go, we got a mystery opponent for Robbie E, and in Cult of Personality, this kid sitting next to me wearing a Bootio shirt lost his fucking mind because apparently he really thought CM Punk was going to walk out the fairgrounds in Nashville on Saturday night. And of course Nash sold it because Nash had his deal with Punk and WWE a couple of years back. So him and Robbie were in the ring laughing and what. So Lamarca comes out and they do that, and then Robbie E tosses him out, and EC3 comes out. Now, admittedly, me and Rosey aren't EC3 fans because I haven't watched enough, really, I guess, to get whatever it is that's gotten him over. But he was over with the crowd. He got a good pop, and they had a decent little, 4-minute match or something. And I was like, well, that's an impressive way to start the show. You got two TV guys, and, Robbie E got pretty good heat, and EC3 got a really good pop. And they both look like wrestlers. They're in great shape. And then in the second match, these two skinny guys that look like the Young Bucks on meth,
but they were called Motley.
The Motley Two. I only knew that from reading results this morning because
the Motley Two, and they come out to a Motley Crue song, and they look like, I don't know, their gear is like something from the 80s. Like, they got the bandanas on the legs. They got,
they went to Adrian Street's eBay page and bought these tights, clearly.
Exactly. And so, and they don't look like, they look horrible. I'm sorry, they do.
The review I read, one guy said the one guy looked like a white version of Cheeseburger.
Yeah, I get that. Probably, I totally get that. Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, then their opponents, and then again, I only know this because I read another guy's review on Trent's board, because some of the announcements I could not make out last night, and this was one of them. These guys were the Mest brothers, M-E-S-T, Mean Mark Mest, who I've seen, I think he's on my Facebook, or I've seen him on Facebook, who looks like Bo James if you put an extra 200 pounds on him, which no offense to Bo James. Bo James is pretty big to start with. So if you put another 200 pounds on him, that's a lot. But and then a partner who looked like Cowboy Dusty McWilliams, if anybody listening knows who that is. Looked like him, but a little heavier and less athletic. Wrestling these two skinny guys. And the skinny guys attack them with chairs right off the bat. And so Mean Mark Mest, or, bigger Bo James, whatever you want to call him, he was face down on the ground, and really, I made a bet to Rosey right then that that's probably all we'd see of him. I didn't think he was going to get back up off the mat because he was blown up. They got brought out on a go-kart thing, and they walked like a quarter of the way to the ring that everybody else did, and he was still blown up. And the match goes on for a couple of minutes. He crawls up I didn't think he was going to get up the steps. He got up the steps, and he got the Robert Gibson hot tag. And he comes in, not quite like a house of fire, as Gordon Sully would say, maybe an apartment with a grease fire or something. He staggered in, and the guys, ran up to him and took bumps off of him. And then, of course, it ended with what else would it end with but a splash, and that was that. And it was so out of place. It was like, they had the lights, they had a nice ring, they had a professional looking show, and then you had guys like Robbie E and EC3 and and everybody. But then you had this match that looked like something that Kevin would have put on a $10 wrestling show for people who knows what that is, or even a $5 wrestling show. Stuck in the, like, you know, crowbarred in the middle of it. Just felt really odd and out of place. But anyway, I'm not going to sit and run down the entire card. I don't remember what match came after that, but there was a guy who came out as, they called him Teddy Fine. I don't remember what his nickname was, but he had a whole intro, a nickname. But I liked his gimmick. He was different. He stood out. He wasn't just your average, you know. Oh, I think between that was Samuel Shaw, the guy that did the Dexter gimmick in TNA against a local guy, Sean Schultz. Well, Sean Schultz is really popular. He does every show that goes on around Nashville. And they had a good little match. And Sean Schultz, I mean, the stuff he did looked good. It's just, he's too blah. Like, he's got to have, like, being out there in a pair of beige pants and crawling around like a snake and telling everybody to shh, you know, and I'm doing a motion in my mouth like anybody can see me right now, doing that. But, like, the guy has potential. He can work. He hit one of the best looking Alabama Jam leg drops off the top rope I've seen. But he just needs something to spice up the character. But they had a good little match. The Teddy Fine guy, he looked like, in the face, he looked like Samoa Joe. But he had a singlet like Colt Cabana, and he had this thing with fringe on it, and it looked like something Johnny B. Bad would carry, but instead of shooting out confetti, it sprayed water. And he's come around, made his way around ringside to All Night Long by Lionel Richie, spraying himself in the face with water.
Yeah.
So what was your take on Teddy Fine?
Like I said, I think his gimmick was different, and I like that. You know, because you don't see a lot of guys that do the more comical gimmicks like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was good as far as his look and his gimmick, his mannerisms, the song he comes out to. All that was good. His wrestling could use a little touch.
Yeah.
But you know, to throw somebody like that in on a show, that's good because it gets the comical reaction and gets the crowd to laughing, and you know, kind of adds.
And
it
gives him a little bit of
credibility
credibility because he was wrestling MVP. So, you know, if you brought him back against somebody else, you're like, well, we've seen the guy wrestle MVP. MVP was over with the crowd. You know, his stuff looked good. The only thing is I don't know if you blame it on the referee or if you blame it on Teddy Fine, but the finish got botched, and MVP was pretty freaking hot about it. You could tell it from just our vantage point at ringside. But all in all, it was, other than the botched finish, it was a good match. I thought it was one of the better matches on the show, just from the fact they worked the crowd really well. Then you also had Tatanka. I'm going out of order here, but Tatanka wrestled the champion C.J. O'Dole. My only knowledge of C.J. O'Dole is he used to be on the JCW shows where Jay and Shaggy making fun of him and everything. He was like a jobber on there. But Tatanka, surprisingly, I mean, considering he's got to be like 50-something, late 50s probably, whose heyday was in, you know, 93, 4, was still in pretty good shape. He's a little heavy. He looks about like Wahoo McDaniel in his, you know, later days in wrestling, but he worked, you know, as good a match as he did back in the day, and it was over with the crowd. There was some guy sitting next to Rosey who kept trying to do the, you know, his little war cry that he does on his theme song as he comes out.
It's pitiful.
He tried. One funny thing, and I don't even know if I told you this because you got to go to the concession stand during that part of the match to get a drink. But at one point, he was doing a couple of his old spots on the guy, and the guys at ringside were yelling, oh, he did a couple of chops, and a couple of guys in the front row were going, one more time. And Tatanka looks at him and goes, you should chant, you still got it. And then he did a move, and they started chanting, you still got it. Well, then the whole crowd started chanting. And then he's like nodding along, like, yeah, I still got it. I'm like, well, I don't know that really counts if you ask people to say it. Chant, you still got it.
Yeah.
I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I found that to be funny, but, you know, he did still have it. It was a good match. But, of course, you know, C.J. Dole's a champion. Tatanka's not going to come in and win the title, as you predicted, as they're coming to the ring. You're like, well, this is going to be a screw job because Tatanka's not going to win the title, is he? And I'm like, well, probably not. And that's exactly what happened. The referee got bumped, and Tatanka had him pinned, and then he low-blowed Tatanka and rolled him up, and magically the referee went from laying flat on his face dead to crawling right over and 1, 2, 3. which is so, you know, like
I told
so
you.
obvious. But
I told you.
But it was a good match.
Your old lady's pretty smart when it
Yeah,
comes
you're
to
starting to figure this wrestling thing out.
I'm figuring this wrestling stuff out pretty good.
So that was a good match. And then they originally, when they booked the show, when they were advertising the show, it was originally advertised Crimson versus Kevin Nash in a match. And then they announced a couple weeks out that Nash wasn't actually going to wrestle. He was just going to make an appearance. And Nash, when he did his general manager Mike spiel at the beginning, he said that he had looked in the mirror and decided he was too old to be getting in there and wrestling. So they had Crimson come out and cut a promo about the fact that Kevin Nash wasn't going to wrestle. He's now left without an opponent. And throughout the night, we had noticed up in the bleachers up there that Chase Stevens, former TNA wrestler, was up in the stands, and with a few other people. So when Crimson come out and made his challenge, he challenged like a couple of guys who were in the crowd who were Tennessee Titan football players. And then he looked up in the stands at Chase Stevens and said, "Hey, what about you, Brett Michaels? You want to come out here and wrestle?" And then he said, "No, I won't beat you up in front of your girlfriend," because he was sitting up there with the lady from the bail bonding company who, you know, sponsors that Arcadian wrestling that he books. So they went through a few people, and eventually he said, "You know, I'll challenge anybody here. You know, bring them on." And James Storm's music hit, and everybody lost their mind. I mean, James Storm got a huge pop, and came out drinking his beer and all that, and made a round around the crowd, and everybody was super excited to see James Storm, and they proceeded to have a pretty good match. I mean, Crimson is the first time I've seen him work in a long time, and he has improved a lot. I mean, there was one spot in there where he was stomping him that looked really rough. But all in all, I mean, it was a good match, and they played to the crowd really well, and they ended up. Rosey called another finish. James Storm made a point to set his beer right in the middle of the steps, and everybody was avoiding those steps through the whole match. And she's like, he set his beer there upright. They're probably going to use it for something. And so sure enough, Crimson grabbed the beer bottle, and that became involved in the finish. And he took a super kick and spit beer in there and got pinned, and you know, the crowd popped. So it was a good match, and I would say as surprises go, that probably set a standard with fans who, even if they're on the fence about maybe not going to the next show because I don't really care about Tommy Dreamer or BWO or whoever, they may still come just because, like, well, hell, there's no telling who the surprise is going to be. Last time it was EC3, Robbie E, and James Storm, you know, so that was probably a good thing. I'm usually not a fan of not advertising people, because if you're going to spend the money on them, why wouldn't you advertise them? Although I kind of understand the James Storm thing. I'm sure it probably was last minute since Kevin Nash decided not to wrestle, but Rosey was excited to see James Storm. She's a James Storm fan from way back, so
yeah, not so much these days, but yeah, from back in the older days, yeah.
From the America's Most Wanted with Chris Harris days, she was more.
Yes. Back in those days, I was.
But she still looked pretty excited when he came out, because you assumed at this point that it was probably going to be anticlimactic. You know, whoever the surprise was going to be, it would probably be, you know, somebody. Yeah.
I think my exact words were, "Oh shit."
Yeah. So you had that, and then in the main event, Eric Young wrestled Spud, and Star Spud come out and cut a really good heel promo on Nashville and the fans before the match, which got him some good heat, which was probably good because a few people probably was cheering for him, and that kind of shut that down. And then Eric Young was over like crazy, you know, a combination of he's been wrestling in Nashville, he lives in Nashville, and he was recently on NXT. And so he got over real well, and we went ahead and cut out because we didn't want to fight the traffic, so we left before that match was over. But according to the results, surprise, surprise, Eric Young did defeat Star Spud in the main event with a pile driver. So I think you probably could have predicted that one too while you were predicting finishes. So.
Yeah.
But all in all, it was a pretty good show, especially to be their first outing in Nashville. Obviously, there's some things that they're gonna want to fix, especially like the tickets and the lines and the getting everybody in the building on time and all that. But we'll chalk that up as growing pains and being in a new place and all that. So I would probably go again. I mean, we've seen Tommy Dreamer in the BWO, so I probably won't go to the next one unless they announce somebody just really, really big that we want to meet.
That we won't be meeting at WrestleCade in November.
Exactly, because we're going there in November.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to keep these things to an hour because I know it's hard to invest much more time than an hour to listen to people ramble on and talk about things. So we're going to try to keep that. We went over it this time. But in the future, we're going to try to keep most of them to an hour. Sometimes they'll go a little over because, much like Kevin Smith, I can be a little long-winded at times, and Rosey knows that. And so, and then both of us, if we get on a subject, can get going. But again, we're going to make this show. It's not going to be the same every week. Sometimes we'll be talking about wrestling. We'll be talking about our favorite TV shows, movies, music, places we go, things we see and do. And if you like it, like I say, share the link with somebody. Shoot us an email. If you don't already, follow us on Twitter. I'm at Vince Hates Us All on Twitter. You're
at R. Shyland.
Spell it.
Yeah,
spell it out.
Gotta spell it because you don't know how to spell it. It's RCAILLAND at Twitter, or Facebook, which is Rose Jackson, the wife of Gene Jackson.
Yep, on Facebook. I'm facebook.com/King of All Wrestling Media. I pretty much add anybody that adds me on there, unless you turn out to be like one of these.
Yeah, I won't
spam things. I'll go back and delete you.
I'll add you if you're not a creep. If you're a creep, you don't get added. So it's pretty much I'll look at your profile before I add you, and if I don't like you, you're not getting added.
But yeah, like us and follow us on there. And I may end up making a page specifically for this podcast. I haven't decided. I'm definitely going to add it to the localstolegends.com website. But if you like it, shoot us an email, send us a tweet or a Facebook message. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, tell us what you'd like to hear us talk about in the future. Things you think would make the show better. Because, again, I enjoy podcasting, but it's a real big hassle trying to book wrestlers and guests and trying to find time with my work schedule and their work schedules to get those done. I'm not saying I won't do any more of those. I will. Probably not on a regular, consistent basis. We're going to try to do these possibly weekly. So, and we've got plenty of stuff to talk about. But, I don't know, some people have said they find us entertaining, they find our views interesting, and they like to hear about our adventures. So I figured the best way is to get on here and talk about it, because we're going to talk about it anyway. So why not record it and put it out there and let people listen to it. And anything you'd like to add here at the end of the very first episode of the Jackson reaction?
Next episode may be my rants on the youth of America, judging by our experience at the Steak and Shake last night. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
The very last leg of the trip last night, as we were driving home, we stopped at, well, I'll make this quick. We stopped at the Steak and Shake in Nashville, couldn't get served, got back in the car, left, drove all the way to Huntsville, stopped at that Steak and Shake. They seated us very quickly. Overall, that was pretty good. We didn't, we asked for a straw, didn't get a straw, we didn't get any napkins, whatever. But there was a table full of teenagers sitting a couple of tables over, who just annoyed the living piss out of us. Rosey, specifically. I have a talent at tuning people out in those places most of the time. I make it a point to try to tune everybody out. And Rosey doesn't necessarily do that. And a lot of times we'll get in the car and go, did you hear them talking about so-and-so? No, I didn't. I didn't hear that at all. But I couldn't tune out all the likes because, these dingbat teenage girls now, like, we were like this and like that and like and it's like this. And they had to have said it 1,000 times.
It wasn't just the teenage girls. It was the guys that were with them, too. And that's what absolutely astounds me, that you've got kids these days that apparently do not get taught anything in school or English wise how to form a sentence, because I literally sat there for 5 minutes and listened to their conversation, and the one girl was like so she likes him, and like I think they like her, and like this and that. I bet there had to be 52 likes in her sentence, and then the guy that she was talking to starts in with, well, like, you know, we could go to your house, like, where do you live, like, and, you know, like, and he had about 52 likes in his sentence, and I'm thinking, okay, combined, you two could have had a 5-minute conversation and added in a lot more words than that and got a lot more accomplished, but you put in like, oh.
Yeah. So that may be maybe something we touch on a little more next week at length, but we have a lot of different things to cover. You know, we'll talk about movies we see, TV shows, wrestling, places we go, and like there's all kinds of trips we've made that we can talk about, and you know, festivals and stuff we've gone to that we'll talk about in the future. But that's going to be all for episode 1. That is our our most recent. I can't say our Nashville experience. We've had a bunch of them. But that's our most recent Nashville experience. I hope everybody enjoyed it, got something out of it, and we will be back next week for episode 2 of the Jackson Reaction. So for Rose Jackson and our cats, BB and Roxy, I'm Gene Jackson. Thanks for
Rose
listening.
Jackson. Later.